On the morning of April 19th, 1995, it was a Wednesday morning. We were in the middle of the legislative session at the state capitol.
I was a senior in high school at Putnam City West.
I was in the 5th grade.
And I was at my grandmother's house in Midwest City, Oklahoma.
In 6th grade, and I actually felt it. Our whole building shook.
And I heard the boom, not knowing what it was. I attributed it to possibly the sanitation workers lifting up the big metal dumpster, and sometimes they'd slam it on the ground.
We noticed immediately that boom wasn't something we normally hear on a day-to-day basis. Everyone kind of froze and looked at each other.
There's no one in the lobby that early in the morning of a girls' dorm, but there was a pretty big crowd gathered in the lobby watching TV.
And then I didn't think much about it. I got in the car and headed up north.
The teacher explained to us that it was a sonic boom.
Even though I was so young, I don't remember hearing it or feeling it. I was playing at the time in my grandmother's living room, but I just remember her persona changed. Everything about her changed. She was immediately concerned.
So I went down to the governor's office, which was down the hall on the second floor of the Capitol, and let Governor Keating know that something was going on downtown. He came into the press office in the governor's office, which was the only office at the time with the television.
There's a sort of iconic image of the front of the building as the helicopter was coming around the backside, and you saw that there was just nothing left of the back of the building. It was completely destroyed.
Governor Keating, who had extensive experience in law enforcement, he said that is a bomb.
And as I came to make the interchange at Kilpatrick and Broadway, I looked south downtown, and that's when I saw the large plume of smoke, almost looked like a mushroom cloud. And at that point, you knew this was different.
All that we knew was that there was a building downtown that had been hit, and so many of us had parents that worked downtown. Panic struck throughout the classroom, throughout the school.
The phones all were tied up. You couldn't use the telephone for hours.
People were lined up in the office just trying to get a hold of their parents. I remember just the pure chaos.
And everybody just in a state of panic trying to figure out all the details and who was involved and what exactly had just happened. And at 4 years old, I still remember all the details as though it was yesterday.
There wasn't necessarily a direct impact on my life as a kid. It still felt like it happened to me. I mean, it happened to our community. It happened to our people.
My father was in law enforcement. My mother worked at what's now OU Medicine, which is just down the street from where all this took place.
My dad was an Oklahoma City firefighter at the time. Shortly afterwards, all firefighters in the city were called back, no matter if they were on their off day or not. And so he worked for pretty much 72 hours around the clock.
That first night, I don't think we saw them. I can't remember really seeing them at all. And there was a good solid 2 months where my father was constantly working that site.
When I was in high school, things really sunk in what had happened, the magnitude and how much it affected the city and the lives of those involved. And a few years later, my dad was appointed to do the bombing trial.
I spent 17 years in radio and TV news, and when you're a journalist, you're sort of naturally conditioned to have a certain level of cynicism about how government functions. But what I found as we proceeded through this was that government worked absolutely brilliantly during this and professionally.
How are we going to handle this? What are our actions? What are we going to do? And what we needed at the time was clear, concise, leadership and direction, and that's exactly what happened.
You had a third of the population of the Oklahoma City metro area that knew someone who died or was injured in the bombing. You had 19% of the population of the Oklahoma City metro area, about 190,000 people who attended a funeral for a bombing victim. That could have brought Oklahoma City to its knees.
In 1995, we embraced unity as a result of destruction. And then in 2008, we had the opportunity to embrace unity as a result of celebration. And that same unity and that same sense of community is really what drew me to work for the Thunder organization.
The partnership that we've created with Oklahoma City Memorial, it's incredible, and it's an empowering partnership.
Sam made it a point for all the players, new players, staff, to go through the Bombing Memorial Museum. There's no better way to understand the heart and soul of this community than going through that museum.
We're proud to be able to help tell the story, bring the reach that we have across the globe with the Thunder brand and the NBA brand.
As a lifelong Oklahoman, the first time I saw the memorial jerseys we had, it just made me proud to be an Oklahoman.
The little survivor tree that's embroidered on there, I just love that on the shorts.
Every little detail means something. And it's just like every single person means something.
A member of my grandparents' church who was killed that day. And as we talked about this jersey, he told me more and more about this person from his church who he was friends with, who lost his life on that day. And the name stuck out to me, and I had the privilege of being part of a group that packed personalized jerseys for all of the family members who would stand on the court on November 5th. When I saw this particular name come across the table, I grabbed it, and I had the privilege of packing that uniform away for this particular person that my grandfather had a relationship with.
When I saw those people on the court,
It was very touching for me.
That was incredible.
Nothing really could have prepared me for the impact of that moment, how strong that was.
I'm kind of an emotional guy, so to me, I got goosebumps, and I held back the tears that day when I saw those people on the court, because for me, it means so much more than just a jersey or just a nice ceremony that we were doing that day.
It brought back so many emotions that night, but even still thinking back on that, all of the visuals and just what that night meant and what that jersey represents for the Thunder, it's a beautiful thing.
It just really made me feel proud that we were able to honor those in that way.
It wasn't going to define us. We'll never forget it. We can't forget it. But we can't, and we haven't let it define us.
Know that we're all in this for something bigger than ourselves.
It's been an honor and a privilege, truly, to be entrusted but with helping to tell this story, to heighten awareness on a global level, and be able to honor the 168 lives that were lost, and to bring memory to what happened that day.
Part of what at the Thunder we feel is important working with the Oklahoma City National Memorial is to bring that story to a whole new generation so that they know, yes, this horrible thing happened on April 19th, 1995. 168 of our friends and neighbors died that morning. But out of evil, good can come.